Today we're going to be discussing joint ventures, mezzanine finance and equity funding and why these routes of finance should be considered. James, are you noticing a rise in demand?
I think a lot of it comes down to who the partner is, and we've seen that it can have unexpected benefits on the senior fundraising exercise. So if the developer's partnering with a very strong equity partner, or in some cases mezzanine funder, that gives confidence to the senior lender in some cases, because they know that if it's passed the litmus test for them, it must be worth looking at.
In the last couple of years, the mezzanine lenders that are active in the market have gone a long way, and we've certainly tried to demystify mezzanine. One of the misconceptions was looking at the mezzanine debt as standalone, when it's effective as part of a blended rate in the debt part of the stack. So typically, working with senior lenders like UTB, we're offering 90% of cost collectively at a blended rate of circa 9%, which is a really compelling proposition.
Also, from a legal perspective, it makes life far easier because there are intercreditor arrangements that generally have to be agreed between the senior and mezz funders. If they have those pre-agreed in advance and they know that they can be working together on a multitude of deals, then life's a lot easier for the lawyers acting for both sides and also for the borrowers, and it's also cheaper.
We don't see it as just another project to be done and got out of, and that's history. We're building relationships with people, and so we want there to be a good outcome for the borrower, for the developer, and if our risk has been brought down, then yeah, we're more than happy to see some funding go back to the mezzanine, so that the developer, he's not hit by interest charges that just pile up. And I mean, no one wants to see a developer that's worked hard for 2.5, 3 years and find they've got very little to show for it at the end.
Certainly in terms of our initial experience of mezzanine was quite good. The headline rate's quite high, and there was an initial concern about two lenders kind of perhaps not quite working in tandem, but you kind of get through that, and you kind of look at the maths and you think, well, actually, if I can borrow a bit more and my blended rate's a bit less, then it kind of stands to reason that my return on my equity is going to be enhanced.
It's a relationship, and you're building a partnership as well for future projects. Lenders observe you, they see how you're working, and they judge you during the difficult times, when things don't go as planned, when things go wrong. This is when you see the quality of the people you're working with.
All the parties have the same vested interest in this, that the lender wants to see it finished, because that's when his risk begins to tail off. The point at the start, when you start digging holes in the ground and knocking walls down, is when your risk rises, because then the value drops. The developer clearly wants to finish it because he wants to get his project finished. The architect, everybody wants to see this get to a successful conclusion, which means that the relationships between the developer and the lender and the people that he uses are absolutely key.
From a broker's perspective, when maybe an SME developer who's not used mezzanine finance before, has the quality of information that you've gathered from them kind of varied?
Developers with less experience, they need more of a guiding hand, and I think that's where the brokers can add value, because we're working for the developer, and therefore we can help them shape the information into a space that the lenders want to see it in, and so that it makes sense to them and they can once and done, rather than coming back with more questions.
Mark's absolutely right. Developers, a good broker is their access to liquidity, and they're able to have conversations with brokers that they sometimes don't feel able to have at an early stage with the lender. So they have a critical part to play from a funding perspective, definitely.
Well thought out proposals that give you the information, even at an early stage. You can make an impression by having the right snapshot information and answering, the questions that the lender will have in his head, which buys you more of their time. And I think there's also a tendency that with the shoddy presentation, the person that gives you poor, half thought out information at the stage they're looking for finance probably makes you think, what's it going to be like when we get into the nitty-gritty of this? You wouldn't employ an architect on a project and work off plans that he'd sketched out on a chip paper sort of 5 minutes before you started, would you? So why would you seek finance on that basis?
I think it works the other way around as well, and I think borrowers are reassured where the lender focuses on the borrower first and the project second. And we're always concerned as an impartial party when we hear about lenders that say, I'll definitely do that project, send us through the details, and then in due course let us have a CV and a recent track record for the developer as well. That always rings alarm bells for us.
Would the same approach be used for an experienced SME developer that may be having growth plans and wants to do a development that's slightly outside of what they've done before?
This is where you buy into the individual and you buy into the particular narrative for that scheme. If it's a natural next step and a natural progression, that will be evident from the information that you get.
From a developer's point of view, how key are relationships with lenders for you, and do you go back to that same lender time and time again?
Mostly, I mean, from our experience, or from my experience, the better relationship, obviously the easier it is to kind of do the next deal and then the next deal and the next deal. But there have been lenders that we worked with a number of years ago that have gone off in one direction and our business has grown and evolved into another direction, and there hasn't been a particular issue, it's just we've gone in different ways. But having kind of been good people to work with always kind of gives you a good kind of platform on which to kind of move forwards with other lenders.
So if you're talking about a capital stack of 50 million, even if the developer's taking mezzanine and joint venture equity, then their hurt money in the deal can still be a very substantial amount that all of the different parties are confident means they're not going to walk away from the project under any circumstances. If it's a £5 million deal, then the developer's stake can start to get very small. And I think that's where we see some of the senior lenders get a bit nervous about developers going down the mezzanine or particularly the joint venture equity route. If it's solely to reduce their own personal risk and their own stake in the project. So I think provided it's a lot of money to them that they're staking in the project, then most of the senior lenders are usually pretty comfortable with other stakeholders in the capital structure.
I think what we're seeing is that there's a team of people sat around the table all trying to support developers in achieving that, and there's actually a wider population that's probably, I think you talked about the way of funding has been never bigger. I think there's more people with more products in the market able to support, and so we can build structures for developers that suit the projects that they're looking at.
For any small developer, it will be a mistake to ignore and dismiss these facilities, because they will help you grow your business and do more and do better. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And would you rather that kind of reaction from a lender if you went to them and they said, actually, I think it's better if you went for this type of finance rather than what you may have been looking for originally? Absolutely.
I mean, the lenders, they know the market, they know what they're doing. Developers think they know everything, but they're actually learning at every mistake they make. And, you know, you do need that wisdom and sometimes that guidance, and you may get it from a lender or you may get it from a broker. You know, and that's teamwork. This is, I think, property development is the epitome of teamwork at its best.